Welcome back to the second episode of Analyst Hour here with Michael Goldsmith. Mike, you're looking fresh today.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate a new look. Didn't really improve my play, but that's all right.
So we are fresh off the ASL double header, and there are a lot of takeaways. So let's just jump right in. The first few takeaways that I had is the Funky Monkeys are a force to be reckoned with without Stephen Shaw. They were scary with him, and now that he's gone, they have proven time and time again now that they are scary without him. Rang has stepped up immensely. He's been delivering, as well as Pete, AJ, and Pat have all been fulfilling their roles. And unfortunately, they did beat the Swarm. They couldn't get past the Super Pandas, but they did beat the Swarm. But I mean, they looked like a well-oiled machine out there. What do you think?
Well, also, I think the game that they beat us was probably one of the faster games this season. Like, that team can shoot. Like, Pat's really improved his shot. Sarang, you always know he's a shooter, but like, wow, he can shoot this season. Obviously, AJ, arguably the most improved player right now. His defense is crazy. He had a lot of good, in my game in particular, a lot of great screen and rolls that even if he wasn't the one who scored on it, his picks would just throw off the defense. He knew where to go. Pete came off the bench, brought energy, scored on me actually, but he brought a lot of energy. And the rebounds. And yeah, the thing is that they have without Steve Shaw, they have two bigs and two guards, and it just really works well together. So there, yeah. And I went going to that game. I knew they weren't bad, but I really underestimated them. Like, wow, they brought it. So
I mean, all of them looked like they're on the same page 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
It was great, and it's great for them. And I'm sure Steve is proud. Shout out to Steven, who despite not playing, has showed up to every single game.
Yeah, you love to see that.
Another huge takeaway, Stampede. It's the first time we've seen them with all four guys, and they are now on a 3-game win streak, but with that doubleheader, closed out 2 wins yesterday. That is enormous, not only for their division, but now for their playoff hopes. And they're also knocking down other teams in their playoff hopes in the opposing division.
Yeah, I don't think that should come as any surprise. Like we mentioned in the last ASL podcast, they came into the season preseason ranked number 1. They just couldn't get their players to show up, and it shouldn't come. Did I expect them to beat the Mateys 21-8? No, that was very surprising. Like how that was dominant. No one could have seen that coming. But like, yeah, everyone knew if that team shows up, they're gonna bring it. And yeah, that they absolutely showed it doubleheader weekend. Dan off the bench, that is scary.
What's it gonna take to stop them now?
I mean, wow, you really perimeter defense, because even Nick Silva, he's a big body, he can drive, but he's relied on his shot more than you'd expect. Costa and Dan, they're elite shooters. So really, you got to be able to defend the perimeter to keep up with that team.
And not only that, like this is both players, both forwards being Cole Chingers and Nick Silva are horses on boards. So
yeah, and great defenders.
Guard that perimeter, but you need to clog that paint too. And I mean, I guess that goes for any team, but especially those guys, because they really flourish in those types of situations. And the Mateys, you said it, they've lost 21-8.
21-8, yep. And then they had a good game against the Stags, I believe it was 21-18, but still they were behind most of that game. Yeah, I don't know.
And they are fighting 1-5. So let me ask you, as an ASL analyst, what's going on?
What's going on? I mean, they have the worst shot selection in the league. There's no buttercoating it, right? Like we watch those games and you see them just shooting so many threes. It's like Ian's a finisher, Matt's a finisher, Nick Germano, he's more of a body inside. Like, why are you shooting so many threes? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, it really, because they're all good defenders. They're all good. Like, Ian's a good playmaker. Matt has a high basketball IQ.
There is a fourth member to the team, though. You slipped by.
Oh, of course, yeah, and Luke's on the team. But yeah, the point is that like it's just for the on paper they're not a 1-5 team. It's just disappointing to see. I don't know what, just watching their shot selection. Yeah.
I mean, I think they would even agree. This has been the most underwhelming performance of the ASL season. They have arguably 2 captain caliber players on their team. Being 1-5, no one saw this coming. I agree with you. They are a bit trigger happy. And I think that does come to bite them in the butt. We're a family-friendly channel. And let's like I want to kind of go into the micros here. Like when you shoot 25 threes a game, exaggeration, but it's probably not that far off. We'll call it 23s a game, and you're not hitting them, and you're chasing your rebound. It sucks the life out of you. You're wasting energy you're wasting your energy, your gas on stuff that really shouldn't be that big of a factor. Matt Schumer, hands down the best rebounder in the league, but it's safe to say they're a mess.
Yeah, well, I just want to add, all their games seem to go above 45 minutes, and that's almost like a compliment to their defense. Like they're just so good defensively that if they just get the shot selection right, they really. I mean, I know it's late in the season now, but like they really could contend. So
yeah, and they're not even out too. Their Honey Badgers is 1-4. They have a rescheduled game later this week. They could end up being 1-5, and that is the Week 7 matchup. So they might fight for the final playoff spot.
So yeah, regardless of that Honey Badgers Stags game that's set to be rescheduled, and even if the Honey Badgers win Week 7, Badgers versus Mateys, that is for a playoff spot on the line. So it's going to be huge. I'm already excited. Should be a great spectacle.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot of fun. Mike, so aside from the shot selection with the Mateys, what else do they need to do to reach their full potential and clinch that playoff spot? And not only that, but possibly flourish in the playoffs?
Well, with the shot selection also comes off-ball movement. I think they need to move more off the ball. When we played them, there was a lot of standing around on both sides. I know they have a lot of long games, as I just mentioned, but you need more off-ball movement. Run some pick and roll with Matt and Ian, man. That is a scary pick and roll, and you don't see it very often. And yeah, really just, you got to move the ball better. Maybe even, I know Ian in past has run some plays, like, because they go through some stretches where they just can't get the ball in the hoop. And I feel like if Ian brought back some of those plays just to get one basket, it would get the wheels going again. But yeah, definitely some major adjustments needed to really get into contention for that team.
Yeah, I think their defense is fine. You don't really need to touch on their defense. And you made a good point. Their 45-minute long games attributes to how good they are defensively. Offensively, however, yeah, there's no like synergy. There's no, I don't want to say chemistry, but it does, as opposed to what we were talking about Funky Monkeys earlier, they don't appear to be on the same page. I see a lot of top of the key, very far, like very long threes, and then the chasing of the rebound. And again, that takes energy out of you. It shouldn't be that. Because there is no shot clock, you have all that time just to find the best shot. And I feel as though Mateys have not put the time in during their offensive possessions to find that best shot. And it's what's kind of helped them be 1-5. And again, this is a team, like we were talking about the Stampede last week. I think they were 1-3 at the time.
Yes, going into the doubleheader, 1-3.
Yeah, they were 1-3, and we were saying this is a team that is better than their record. And I can say the same thing about the Mateys. They are much better than their record. And this will, let's say they could obviously turn it up and the season's not over. They can win a championship. But however, for the sake of the conversation, let's say they lose, whether they don't make playoffs or they get cut first round of playoffs. It's going to go down as like a what if they tighten those loose ends? What if they took the time and got on the same page? Just because they are so incredibly talented. And even in a third man in Nick Germano, like Nick Germano was a perfect third man. You're going to get out of him. He's great defensively. He could put the ball in the basket as a third man can, as much as a third man can. And Luke sets some mean picks.
But you can use that once in a while. That's the thing. Like if Luke's there, like bring him in and set a screen. Like once in a, like bring him in, just free you up. I mean, but what they can't do is don't bring him in, set a screen, and then take a dumb three. Bring him in, set a screen, and get an actual good look, and that would really be beneficial.
Absolutely. And but Luke has not been there. Luke has really not been present. So I guess we can't hold that against him for that. Now we're going into the last game of the regular season for majority of the teams. There is one reschedule. What are your thoughts going into that? Who needs to win? Who needs to take it easy? And what game, aside from the obvious Mateys Honey Badgers, are you looking most forward to? So let's touch upon some specific playoff scenarios.
So, all right, in terms of playoff scenarios, so I'm just gonna pull up the records on my phone real quick, but
Absolutely.
so all right, so I'm just gonna run through all the records. So in the East, you have the Super Pandas at 5-1, the Stags at 3-2, the Swarm at 3-3, and the Stampede at 3-3. Now in the East, all the Super Pandas need to do, they win one game, they get the first round bye. However, if the Super Pandas were to lose to my team, the Swarm, and the Stags win out, both those teams would be 5-2, and the Stags would get the first round bye because in week one the Stags beat the Super Pandas. Then you have for the Stampede to make the playoffs, they need to win and they need the Swarm to lose because both those teams, the Stampede and the Swarm, are 3-3, but the Swarm has the tiebreaker because the Swarm beat the Stampede in week one. So for the Stampede to make the playoffs, they need a win and they need the Swarm to lose both, and it doesn't matter what happens with the Super Pandas. And for the Swarm, it's kind of reversed. Like the Swarm either need to win themselves or for the Stampede to lose. One of the two of those, and the Swarm are in. And then we look at.
Well, I just have a quick question because you're really good at thinking about this stuff. The cool takeaway that I got from this doubleheader is that the league is now flipped upside down. Everyone besides the Super Pandas and Funky Monkeys left that doubleheader with a different situation that they were walking in with. Now, is there a chance that the Swarm don't make the playoffs? Is there a chance that if another situation happens, the Stags don't make the playoffs?
So I was
those final three teams, excluding the Super Pandas, is there a chance that all three of those can individually not make the playoffs?
All right, so I'm looking at the Swarm and the Stampede can both miss the playoffs. You guys are clinched in, the Super Pandas, and then for the Stags. So if the Stags lose to the Honey Badgers, they're 3-3, and then so if the Stags lose out and the Swarm win, then the Stags miss the playoffs because if the Stags lose next week, they're 3-3. Same are the Swarm and the Stampede. Now, if they lose again, they're losing to the Stampede. So now they're 3-4. The Stampede are 4-3. And if the Swarm beat the Super Pandas, and the Swarm are also 4-3. So the two right now, the 2-3, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and the 4 seed could all miss the playoffs in the East.
No one is safe.
Besides the Super Pandas are safe. But you guys don't even have the first round bye locked up either.
This is crazy.
Yeah, anything could happen. And then you want to look at the West?
I think all of us want to look at the West now.
All right, let's look at the West. So at the top, we have the Funky Monkeys, who are 4-2. Right on their tail, Pegasus at 3-3. And then we have a little drop off. Then you got the Honey Badgers at 1-4. And then running the caboose, the Mateys at 1-5. So so I'm actually not as familiar with who plays. Okay, so the Pegasus and Funky Monkeys play. They're both clinched in, I believe. And then that leaves the Mateys and the Honey Badgers. And that is, as we referenced earlier, that showdown is for the final playoff spot in that division. Regardless, I know the Badgers still have their rescheduled game versus the Stags. Even if they win, the Honey Badgers will be 2-4, the Mateys 1-5. So if the Mateys beat them, they're both 2-5. Mateys have the tiebreaker. In terms of Pegasus Funky Monkeys, they match up. That game is for the first round bye. So in the West, you have a matchup for the first round bye and a matchup for the final playoff spot. It is truly madness.
This is crazy. I mean, this is chaotic as hell. Before we jump to the next subject, I think we gotta top this off with final takeaways from the doubleheader, and then I want to ask one last question about that big match we're talking about. A few things I forgot to mention because we just dove right into the Funky Monkeys as soon as I brought them up. Alex Pisacreta is a killer. That is one thing I took away from this weekend. That guy he does not let his team lose. He will do everything in his power. I mentioned it last week. This guy's got a competitive edge. He played efficient. He played aggressive. That guy delivered. He played incredibly well. He's a killer. And Pegasus is another team that, even though they don't have a bad record, being 3-3, they are also better than their record. And people kind of look over them just because they had that really slow start. I wouldn't be surprised if they could make a really good playoff run. And I think you said they play the Funky Monkeys, which is battling for the first round.
It is for the first round bye, regardless.
They could very well take that away from the Funky Monkeys. But Alex Pisacreta is a killer. AJ Clark if we're going to zoom in on specific players, AJ Clark pretty much has a nomination locked up for most improved player. He has been great.
Absolutely.
But I do want to give hats off to Ryan Cadigan. ASL, I address fans all around the world, players, parents of players. This week, the ASL has been plagued by injuries, and we will go deeper into that later. But Nick Zelanskis unfortunately did fall victim to a left ankle injury that left his ankle in brutal condition. So Captain Ryan Cadigan had to play alongside Michael Goldsmith and Takwisi Namazunda. And although they did lose both games, they did put up a great fight against Pegasus. They did unfortunately lose traction against the Funky Monkeys. However, I do want to give hats off to Ryan Cadigan as well as Michael and Takwisi, because it's not easy. Nick obviously was there for not only offense, defense, but size. And there was a big fall off in size in his absence. And I thought Ryan did a great job shooting lights out. Michael, I thought you had one. I pulled you aside after your game against Pegasus. I thought you had one of your most efficient games. So I got to give hats off to Swarm for keeping themselves in it for majority of the time, excluding that Funky Monkeys game. But I thought you guys pretty much played as well as you could have. But before we jump into our next subject, I have to ask who you got for the Honey Badgers Mateys game.
I got the Badgers, man. I mean, who knows?
Really,
maybe
you have the Badgers.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm turned off by the Mateys. I mean, they're not by them individually, because they have so individually good players, but them as I don't know. I just watching their last game. I remember commenting on the shot selection as I did earlier, and then just watching it just after saying it just over and over again. Like, I don't know. I like both those teams. Like, honestly, I wouldn't mind if either made the playoffs, but the Badgers, I mean, I don't know. James is having one of his best years. Nick's been looking better. Will O'Neill's a great facilitator, and Steve Troy can play some defense off the bench. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a blow up by any means, but I'd say Badgers by 3. It's my prediction.
Yeah, here's my thing. As obviously the Honey Badgers are also underperforming based on their skill. We can't let them slide away with that. They are 1-4, could be 1-5. Also could be 2. They're 1-4 right now.
Hold on.
They're playing the Stags this week. They're the.
Oh, you're right. You're correct. You're right. They're 1-4. Sorry, listeners.
But they're also underperforming based off their skill level. However, Mateys has a lot of talent. Both their front runners, and Ian and Matt, really want to win this game. They have shown visibly their frustration on their underperformance. They know it. I don't see themselves allowing themselves and their team to lose this game. I anticipate Luke will be back, which definitely can give them some fresh legs, put him in there for a few. Both teams playing at their best potential. I gotta go Mateys. It's just a matter of if Mateys can bring their best potential. Resendez has been looking better. You're 100% right. He's definitely finding himself more. James has been nothing but consistent offensively. He's been great. And
what you're getting
last week. Unfortunately, he can't do it by himself. No one can do that by themselves, but we were just talking about James. So yeah, he definitely needs Will to show up, Nick to show up, and obviously Steven to show up. I think if they're both playing their best basketball, I'm going to go Mateys.
Wow. You know what? I would agree with you in the fact that both teams, if you put both teams at their full potential, the Mateys are the better team. But the Mateys haven't played to their potential all year, and I just don't see that changing.
Have they showed hints of it or no?
Have they? I mean, what did they? Didn't they win week 1? I don't know. I
think they defeated Pegasus week 1.
I mean, granted, my team was very close to losing to them, but the Swarm. But it was a typical defensive slugfest, and we just couldn't put it in the basket because of how good their defense is. But really, I don't know.
Okay,
I still got the Badgers at their full potential.
Well, we're gonna have to stay tuned for that. Now I would love to drop a fun question for you.
Okay, ready.
Everything considered, and take a minute to think what that means. Everything considered, I would like you to cast your ASL Mount Rushmore.
Wow. Mount Rush. So that's four.
That's
So
four.
I just had to confirm there. Okay.
In
Well,
no particular order. Your
in no
ASL
order. Good. I
Mount
like that.
Rushmore.
All right. So I'm gonna start with my captain, Ryan Cadigan, ASL champion, finals MVP, has been there for 3 or 4 seasons and has always been a star and really, really wants to win. And when he has that killer in him where when he really wants it, he's gonna have it. So and he's shown success throughout the league. So I'd say you put Ryan there. Number 2, again, no particular order. I'm gonna say Colin, the other captain that I want to ring with. Colin, really, same thing. Like you always, he's been one of the best shooters in the league for years. And when you're on Colin's team, man, you got a good shot, and he really wants to win. He's a great leader too. Colin is a great leader. Like he's gonna keep you engaged no matter what. He's gonna put you in the right spots. Colin's great. Number 3. Steve Shaw, just because he's the best player the league has ever seen. You could argue maybe, you could argue Emmett's better, but he's the best player that's ever accomplished anything in the league. I know Emmett had his vacation, not dissing Emmett here. He's great.
No diss to Emmett, but I think we've had subs play more games than him.
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously Steve Shaw, the best player we've seen, and there'll never be an ASL performance that compares to Steve Shaw in the 2021 final. So that alone,
that was the most regal performance I've ever seen. I felt blessed to be there.
Dude. Yeah, honestly, I was privileged just to witness it, dude. It was special.
That was incredible.
It was special.
All right, one final spot, Michael.
So this is the toughest one. So
far we have identical Mount Rushmores, and I'll go into it when you're done. But I have my guy locked in.
You know what? And yeah, I'm just gonna speak it out. I'm deciding between Connor Fu and Ian Chowdhury.
Okay.
And I think Connor Fu. I mean, Ian obviously he won the first ASL season ever. He carried his team to the finals 2 seasons later. Barely lost that finals. Again, he easily, a few bounces, Ian could have 3 rings.
I know.
Which really, it's crazy. But the issue is he hasn't, and he's had a lot of the playoff struggles got to factor into it, not individually, of course, but as a team. And with this season too, I mean, I don't know. You look at the way Connor Fu's played. Keep in mind, Connor Fu is the only player to have an MVP and a DPOY. And when he shows up in the playoffs, he's lights out. It's really tough, but right now I'm going to give it to Ian. But I think Connor Fu with the ring would pass that.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to go on and talk about mine, but you literally took the words right out of my mouth. Ryan, Colin, Steven, Ian. Ian, for the longest time in my eyes, would be considered the ASL GOAT. But unfortunately to him, we outsourced and then ended up bringing in some actual varsity caliber players. Yeah. So and again, just to speak personally on it, I consider myself a great ASL defender. However, yesterday I was matched up against Alex Visakrita, who I thought I played the best defense I could have played. He made me look invisible, and that just showed the difference between someone who actually plays basketball competitively and then someone who just plays pickup. I mean, there is, again, Ian is incredible. He's one of the best street ballers we'll ever see. And unfortunately, you have players like Colin and Steven who have played competitively and have played at I hate to say it, a much higher level in the ASL, and that obviously shows.
I just want to add one thing. Ian's dominance league, because a lot of players in this season weren't there for season 1. The most dominant ASL season in history is Ian in season 1. And that granted, obviously he's not as talented as Steve Shaw, but that Steve, in comparison to the rest of the league, that season by Ian was by far the most dominant. They went 8-1 and didn't lose in the playoffs. So,
oh yeah, I don't want people to slide under the rug Ian's legacy, but be that first season. I think that's a great point, because even though we said last week that championship was the lightest, and it was, every time Ian had the ball, you kind of just had to stand there and watch. There's nothing you could really do. And he still shows flashes of that. That obviously doesn't go away. But Ian had a really dominant first season. I'm really glad you brought that up. And obviously he's played every single season. He's been nothing but phenomenal. And he does have a ring and an MVP. And he could still have he could still get that second ring. And we said last week, if he wins again this year, he's the GOAT. I would just love to have another person here to give me their ASL Mount Rushmore. Just get another input,
Yeah, I know. It'd be nice, just
someone that loves ASL.
Someone who's been there for a while.
Been there for a while.
Wants to win.
Always puts in the grind. I would love Pete Stylos to be Pete Stylos is that guy, man. Yeah,
that would be pretty sick if we had his analysis.
If only he was here with us.
Oh shit! What's up, guys?
Oh, we have
Pete, what's good, bro?
How you doing, guys? Fresh off the hospital. Michael, you want to tell the viewers what happened?
Yeah.
Today?
So me, Pete Stylos, Trot, and Chin, we're just balling up, just playing some twos, and I actually didn't witness the tragedy. Here, Pete, you can come in the camera show.
Yeah,
I didn't witness the tragedy itself, but I heard behind me Pete scream "fuck," and I looked at that finger, and it obviously didn't look good.
We'll of it later, Pete. If that's okay, I'll paste a photo.
It didn't really. I've never seen a finger look like that.
You got my medical consent.
Yeah, I have never seen a finger look anything like that in person. That was something.
Yeah, I was very shocked at first, but thankfully, Trottier was able to drive me right to Lawrence General, and they popped that thing right back in.
That's awesome. So, Pete, what is your ASL Mount Rushmore? Let's hear it.
So I just wanted to say before I was, introduced, I just wanted to point out some really, really great points by you guys. You guys are really hitting the hammer on the nail with all of these, this analysis of the ASL and all the teams. It's just spot on. Can't get any better than that. But without further ado, my ASL Mount Rushmore. Obviously I got to put my captain, Steve Shaw. I mean, this dude, unreal talent. He's got size, he's got shooting, he's got rebounding. He can do anything on the basketball court. The kid was a varsity captain for Andover High School. Not like some small Division III high school. We're talking, this guy was going up against kids that went to Central Catholic and Lowell and Lawrence. This dude played, like you said, he played a much higher level, as we hate to say, a much higher level of basketball. And he has that basketball background, just like Colin Kirkpatrick. I mean, come on, this dude is just a winner. Yeah, he can do almost anything as well. Obviously, size-wise, he's a little less big than Steve, but, obviously his skill is just incredible. He can shoot the ball really well. One of the most iconic moments is, do I even have to say it? But 2018 Inferno versus Blue Ballers. First, it was the fadeaway one leg for the game, right?
It was great.
When I saw that, I was like, wow, this guy really can play ball. He can really
incredible. And I want to defend Colin because I've said this, I think I've said this to him, but I want to bring it up here. Obviously the league wouldn't really notice this, but when I obviously play alongside him and I take our stats, he is a sneaky good defender. This guy puts up at least 2 or 3 steals a game and a block here and there. He's a sneaky good defender. That's all I want to put out there. I'm going to shut up. Pete, you have 2 more slots.
Yeah, definitely, man. I agree with you on that. He's just hard to score on. Any player in the league will probably agree to that. You're going up against Colin, you're trying to post him up. He's not going to make it easy for you at all. So that brings me to my third spot. I mean, guys, it's Ryan Cadigan. Who else would I put on there? The dude, especially the 2019 season, just really showed he went through a lot of adversity. I know you guys were all on the team together. You guys were the probably worst team in the league at that point.
Scrawny Jews who weighed under 145, and then one Luke Pratty who weighed over 345.
And one of the most coldest iconic moments from Ryan is we're not losing another game. And he was right on the head.
I forgot about that, Pete. Good.
I did too,
Yes.
and I was a teammate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I remember this so well just because I subbed for you guys in the last regular season game for the Dad Bods. And so after that game, I remember Ryan said, like, we're not losing another game, and you guys did not lose another game after that.
Keep in mind,
And,
we were down 1-0 in a few in a playoff
Best
series.
of 3.
yeah, exactly. So,
And
like,
we never lost.
yeah,
That
you
was
never
great.
lost another series or game after that, and you were rightfully crowned the champions, and you obviously played a great team in Iron Chattery's Charybdis, and it was just one of the best finals in my opinion. And the thing that was great about that season is you didn't have Emmett, you didn't have Steve or Colin or any varsity players, so you had the raw drafty like level of basketball talent. So you know what I mean? So,
That's a good idea. That's a good point.
That's why I think just, and especially too the season before, Ryan took his team to the finals as well. Yeah, he might not have won, but like, even getting to the championship game, a lot of players in this league haven't even been there. They haven't been on that stage. You guys have been on that stage. You guys know how it is. And some players, unfortunately, will never be able to experience playing in the championship game or even winning it.
Mhm.
So, which brings me to my final spot. I mean, like, you guys also made a great case, but it really, to me, like Connor Fu, I also played with him. Great, great athlete, great shooter, defender, whatever. But I do think his accolades are impressive. However, I'm going to pick Ian just because he's one of the one of the most skilled ball handlers in the league, honestly.
He's been the face of the ASL for forever.
Pretty much, yeah. He's been like an icon, all-star of the ASL, and he always does whatever he can to get his team in the right position to win. And since I bring up a lot of moments from these players, my most memorable moment from Ian was when I was playing on Cedric's team in 2018, and then I think we had maybe a 12 or 10-point lead or something like that. All of a sudden, Ian just gets in his bag. He will not miss a single shot, and he was able to come back from such a deficit. And unfortunately, he didn't make the finals that year, but still, he always puts up an incredible performance. And how iconic is the glasses falling off after a foul, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like I said, I played with Connor, have a lot of respect for his game. He's a great shooter, one of the best shooters in the league. However, I just don't think he has that ring or even championship appearance that could put him in that conversation. Just, Ian has that, he's won a championship, I think, yeah, Connor Fu is a great ASL captain and will always be, one of those guys that can really just carry a team. But I'm still giving that fourth spot to Ian Chowdhury. However, I think if Ian doesn't do well the rest of the season, I think you can make a very strong case for Connor Fu.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my ASL Mount Rushmore right there.
I loved it. That was a great take. The beauty in Ian Chowdhury is that the kid could be down 20-0 in a 21-point game, and he's never out. And that other team knows it, and they're never comfortable.
Exactly. No lead is comfortable when you're going up against Ian.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing I wanted to put with Ryan saying we're never going to lose another game and being right was kind of like the premature version of the energy's about a shift tweet.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then I guess I would love to take this time to shed some positive light on some players who have not, I guess, been given that light. So I would love to start by doing that by applauding Owen Bollinger. I think he struggled with attendance for the first few weeks, but recently, again, this is coming from a guy who's watched him play, and I take his stats sometimes. He has been nothing but a horse on boards. He's definitely getting a little bit more comfortable with putting the ball up for some shots. And his team encourages him to do that, which I love to see. So I love to see him play more aggressive defense, which he's been doing. He's been great on the rebounds. He's even put up a lot of assists coming off of offensive rebounds, which is huge. and getting more comfortable throwing up some more shots. So that's a player that I'd love to see get just kind of grow as an ASL presence, and I definitely want to applaud him. I don't know if you guys have any other players you really want to kind of give the spotlight, and you've noticed some improvement where we haven't really talked about them before or aren't really talked about.
Yeah, I'll let Michael take the floor on this one.
All right. Someone who hasn't been talked about enough, I'm thinking.
Well, I could go again, and someone who plays beside them is Sean Bradshaw. Sean Bradshaw is the most pure defender. And I think, Pete, you brought that up. You brought up the term hard to score on. And I think in the NBA, again, people judge the depoy. Yeah, they can be hard to score on that, but they look at their rebounds and their steals and their blocks. And that's great. And that's totally important to embodying a defender. But at the base of it is they are hard to score on. And Sean Bradshaw has definitely been in depoy talks in the past. But that's another player that I think gets swept under the rug a lot. I think he is just a pure defender who is hard to score on. And he definitely had some forced turnovers on me yesterday. And that, again, maybe I would not have noticed it if I didn't play him. But again, Sean Bradshaw should not be regarded as anything less than a great defender. So, and I think the Pegasus love having him out there for his third man, because usually we see a third man drop off in skill. They don't have that.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's good that you bring up Sean's just defensive skills, because he really, it's like he has the body of a guard, but he plays like a big man. And like he's got, he's in the paint, and he'll put up some good shots once in a while. Not a great 3-point shooter, but in the paint he can definitely make some moves. I've seen him, with some really good post moves, making defenders look silly. But he's definitely a very underrated player in this league, and he deserves a lot more credit.
And I just want to say, I was just pulling up the roster, and I saw two guys that really need some recognition. First one, Dennis Tavares, I think he was third on the depoy ladder. He really is always in the right place at the right time. High basketball IQ, a better facilitator than he gets credit for. He's not a scorer, but he doesn't need to be, because he brings so many other facets to the game. So shout out Dennis. One more, Ian Hale. Wow. He has turned it around, man. For a while, Ian was the laughing stock of the league. And he is now, this is a compliment, because he is not a joke. You got to defend that kid. Wow. Credit to him for the way he's played, because he's done exactly what you guys probably wanted from him. So definitely. Dennis and Ian, those are my two shout outs.
Yeah, Ian, I'm glad you bring up Dennis, because he's been great. And Ian, I said it last week, I think he's embodied his role better than anybody in the league. And usually fourth men can be a liability. Well, everybody can be a liability in a certain aspect of the game, but obviously fourth men are regarded as the least skilled players. Ian, I can say this firsthand, has not been a liability in any way, shape, or form. We all know that, and I'm glad other players in this league are recognizing it. Is he going to drop 21 points in a game? No, there's a select few people who can, I can count them on one hand. But I'm glad you bring up Ian, because he's been really great. There's a lot of underrated players. Pat Archambault is another underrated player. I think everyone gives him props, but I don't think people really appreciate how good of a player he is. Pete, you can definitely speak on this. The guy's got an electric first step. He's a good facilitator. I can't really speak on his shooting. The game we played, he struggled a bit, but that could just be a bad game. But he finishes well. Pete, I'll give the floor to you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously playing with Pat, not one but two separate seasons. I just got to tell you, Pat is definitely a player that gets overlooked a lot, especially I think the 2019 season. People really underestimated how much he meant to the Fire Leopards, because Pat was able to just, he was that second option pure shooter at times, and he can make some fancy passes. He can run through defenders, break some ankles sometimes. He's an athlete, because he was the captain of his hockey team. This kid can play the game of basketball for sure.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of underrated players. Obviously, when we talk about playoff standings and teams individually, you got to bring up the captain, because they're usually carrying majority of the weight. But like I said, there's only few guys who can score those 21-point games. We obviously haven't seen it, and we probably never will see a 21-point game. I think that 19-point game last year from Stephen Shaw will be the closest we ever see. But there's a 21 points is a lot of points, and it's a lot of weight to distribute, and a lot of guys do it and don't get enough credit. So I'm glad we took an opportunity to do that.
If there's one guy can do it, it's Steve.
Steve can definitely do it. He's shown that. Is all love to AJ and Pat, but when they were playing in that game, I was so mad every time not mad, but I was like, no, don't shoot it. Like, let Steven do this. Like, but obviously you want to see those guys get their shots and get their, because they deserve it. But it just would have been cool to have that 21-point game. With that being said, I do think that covers everything. Thank you, Pete, for coming. We are so happy you are here.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really
hope that pinky heals up. And actually, before we sign off, the Swarm's Nick Solanskis, I did mention. I will put up a photo of his gruesome ankle injury right here. Say some extra prayers tonight for our players.
Prayers up.
Prayers up. But thank you guys for tuning in for the second episode of Analyst Hour on the ASL podcast. Thank you guys. Good night.